Well, joining us now from Glasgow is Anne-Marie Ward, the Chief Executive of the charity Faces and Voices of Recovery UK. Great to have you on the programme. I'm going to start off by asking you a question that may be impossible to answer, so I apologise. But why do you think it is that Scotland has such a bad record on this?
It's not impossible to answer. It's quite simply because our treatment system is failing. We have a very different treatment system to other parts of the UK, which primarily only focuses on important and necessary harm reduction interventions, but it does not help people get free from dependency. So it's an easy question to answer, and it's a failed policy, and it's now that our drug services in Scotland are no longer fit for purpose.
Can you just explain exactly what that means? So you're effectively saying that the treatment system needs to help free people from dependency. What does this mean?
Well, what it means is when, someone approaches drug and alcohol services, they ask to get help with their addiction and they ask to get free from their addiction. And unfortunately, in Scotland, the most of our investment goes on substitute prescriptions. So that is not helping people get free from dependency. That's substituting one drug for another, which in the initial stages can be helpful. But to continue to do that for 20, 30, and in some cases 40 years, that's an ethical humanitarian disaster, and it's catastrophic in Scotland, and it's because our treatment system is failing. It has no real recovery focus, it has no real investment in recovery services, and it's quite simply disgusting.
So what kind of things should be offered then? Is it things like counselling, for example, to help people get through those difficult stages when you are giving up drugs or trying to?
Well, first and foremost, if someone's dependent on a substance, they have to be detoxed, and they have to have then go on to learn to deal with whatever trauma, as it often is, that was, made them dependent in the first place. And then, services that can support them to live free and, free from dependency, and obviously services that can help them learn to live clean and sober. And there are many free services in the community that do that. For instance, the Anonymous Fellowships are very good at helping people do that. But for some people, they do need a medical detox, particularly with the drugs that we're seeing in the UK now. Like, it's very harmful to try and come off these drugs on your own. In fact, you can die if you do so. So the detox services and the, having services that focus on help people get off drugs, this isn't rocket science, but unfortunately we've been educated out of our instincts on this issue, and many of our so-called experts tell us that we have to be on substitute prescriptions for the rest of our life rather than getting clean and sober.
It's really interesting you speaking very clearly about how you think this has effectively been a policy failure that's led to this. We've, of course, seen, the Scottish National Party have a very difficult election period this year. Do you think this is one of many factors? Yes, but do you think it's one of the factors that might have led to people turning away from the government?
I think it's a major factor in people waking up to, I suppose, the rhetoric and spin of this government. When we first started campaigning, we used the hashtag "You Keep Talking, We Keep Dying." But unfortunately, 5 years now after the Scottish Government declared an emergency and did very little over those years to change policy or practice or investment in real services, we are now using the hashtag "You Keep Lying, We Keep Dying," because the spin is so incredibly Orwellian and it gets more and more exaggerated every year. We had a minister this morning saying that we're making progress when the math clearly says we've had a 12% rise, a 25% rise in Glasgow alone. That is just, is beyond rhetoric and spin. That is lies.
You are working on the kind of front line of this, if you like. You'll be seeing a lot of the impact that this is having. Can you just give us a bit of a sense about, the kind of drugs that we're seeing people using and the impact that it's having on their lives?
Well, particularly in Scotland, we're seeing a massive intake of cocaine and cocaine addiction, and we're seeing also people who are addicted to cocaine being offered methadone, which is a heroin substitute. So when I say our drug services are no longer fit for fit for purpose, that's what I mean. We only have that one tool in our tool bag in drug services, which is substitute prescriptions for heroin addiction. And Scotland has a major cocaine problem. We use the most cocaine per head of population in the world, and we're offering people methadone for that. That is just, why that's not a worldwide scandal, I will never know, but that is what's happening in Scotland.
Thank you. It's been really interesting to talk to you this morning. Thanks very much for coming on Sky News.
Thank you.